Hi, friends. Hi, Hans. Welcome
Hello.
to welcome to the Four Animals for Earth show. This is episode number 60. It's called Sustainable Tourism. What should we look for in hotels? And I am so excited for this conversation for so many different reasons, but this is a conversation that I've been looking to have for a really long time. I'll tell you why, but I first want to introduce everybody to Hans. And Hans, I am realizing I might butcher your last name. So let me see if I say it right and you correct me. So Hans Pfister,
That's
is
very
that
good.
right? All
Yes.
right. Okay, good, good. So Hans Pfister, who's the president of Cayuga Collection, which is a sustainable luxury hotel group located in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama. He's been
Correct.
in yeah, I can't wait for you to tell us even in more detail about this, but Hans has been in the sustainable ecotourism industry for 20 years, maybe plus, leading the way in a lot of different initiatives within the tourism industry. And I had like what I feel like is one of the most blessed opportunities ever to get to stay at one of the resorts. We stayed in Sindamont Verde, which is in the cloud forest in Costa Rica back in 2019. And the entire time that we were there, I just kept thinking, this is so different from anything that I have ever experienced. And I mean, so of course, like the resort's beautiful, like it's luxurious. You're having an amazing experience. But I think on top of that, it was the community feel that came with staying there. I mean, we actually made friends with the people who were working in the resort. My kids, Tati, my kids were asking her to take them home and babysit them. So it was just it felt like family and it felt so comfortable, and on top of it, everywhere you turned left and right there was something reminding you about the impact that your vacation was having on the people and the environment around you. And I just
Hey,
thought,
by the way, Jenny, sorry to interrupt you. Just
yes.
Tatiana, since you mentioned her, she's pregnant.
Uh-huh.
She's gonna have a baby. You can tell your family.
Oh, she is. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to, she's on my Facebook as well. So I'll have to reach out and tell her,
Okay.
congratulations. That's amazing. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And that family feel, it was just so different from what I have experienced. I've been, in the tourism industry in hospitality for a lot of my career. I worked for Disney from the time I was 19 until I was 30, down in Florida, in Paris, in Los Angeles here. My husband still works for the company. As consumers on the consumer side, we are have loved traveling. Traveling has been something that has been a part of, I feel like, kind of what's defined me and my life since I was young. Exploring and immersing in other cultures and learning and getting to know people. There's nothing that really matches going someplace that is so different from yours and connecting and really getting to know people and getting to know other cultures. And I feel like it's something that's so incredibly important for our world. I think that's what keeps conflict away. I think that's what brings people together to try to solve problems and challenges instead of,
Mhm.
finding fighting against each other. But as we're all beginning to learn, and I think you've known for a long time, the tourism industry also has a pretty harsh impact on people and on the planet and on animals. And now the
It
question
can. Yeah.
becomes, it can. I love that you're saying that, because the question becomes, where's the balance, right? How do
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
continue to keep
Yeah.
this connection without the destruction? And
Hmm.
when I was at your resort, I just kept thinking, this is it. Like, this is the way. And it's like no one has all the answers, but I feel like you guys have really come very far. So I'm just so excited to talk to you and dig in. For everyone who's listening and watching, the structure of our conversation today. We're going to get to know Hans and Cayuga Collection, a bit about your story, and then we're going to dig into what you do differently in your resorts, a little more
Hmm.
tactically around things like the people that are hired or the decisions that are
Hmm.
made. And then we'll wrap up with some conversation about the past couple of years, the impact of COVID, and what we as consumers, as travelers, can do simply as we're making decisions to try to be more conscious and better. So that's the plan for today. So that's a lot, but let's dive in. I want to have
Okay.
you start talking, and I really want to set the stage with you telling us about Cayuga Collection, maybe a bit about
Hmm.
the setting of a couple of resorts. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, paint a picture for us of what Cayuga
Yeah.
Collection is.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks, Brandy, for that incredible introduction and your praise of our property up in the cloud forest at Monteverde. And it's a real honor to be on your show. So when you think of Cayuga Collection, it's definitely not a chain of hotels because they're all so different. You know, right now we have seven opening one November 1st, another one. They couldn't be more different. You know, so they're completely different experiences, completely different settings. They're all owned by different people, so there's a personality coming in from that. And then they're also in different countries, you know. So it's really a collection. And one of the things that guests have told me is like, wow, you know, I went to this and uh, the other, you know, property was so different, but what it did have running through everything was, you know, a luxury experience. It's a high-end experience. We really try to pamper you. Our strong focus on sustainability and the people factor. You know, I think one of the things, and then you mentioned this, is really the people factor. That's something that's really important to us. So you are in the most amazing natural settings, on the ocean, in the mountains, on islands. But what really makes it special is the people. You know, so that's where we're trying to do. And for example, we have won a couple of years back the WTTC Tourism for Tomorrow award, and we won that specifically in the people category. You know, the people categories, people say, "Wow, you know, you're just doing things differently." And like you said, we're probably gonna talk about that a little bit later. But that's definitely one of the main things that is different about staying at the Cayuga Collection.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that that's something that you consciously work to do, and the biggest thing that I felt as a guest, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
that's really cool. Um, how about a bit about your journey? So how did you get to the point where you started this business, I guess?
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, what's your story? How did you get to this?
Right. Yeah, so as you can tell by my name, Hans Pfister, you know, that's not a typical Costa Rican name, obviously. So I'm 25 years here in Costa Rica, and I grew up in southern Germany in the Black Forest. That's where I started my career in hospitality. Then went to a university in upstate New York at Cornell. I went to the hotel school, and I had the luck of meeting two Costa Rican women at the in upstate New York in Ithaca. One is my wife now, and the other one is my business partner. You know, so that was really great. My wife, you know, we're married next year 25 years, have three children, a dog, a cat, and the company here. We live in San Jose, Costa Rica, and my business partner Andrea. She also studied hotel administration, and we didn't form Cayuga right after. Where everybody was doing something before, and you know, she was in Africa. I was working for another company, but then we came together and co-founded Cayuga. And for you know, next year will be 20 years. We'll be you know, we're running these sustainable luxury hotels and lodges, and it started basically with something we call the Ecolodge owner dilemma, right? You know, our first clients when we started was this couple from Minnesota, now in their 70s. Back then, they were in their, you know, late 40s, early 50s. And they basically sold everything they had. He was a lawyer, she was a musician. They sold everything they had, and just went to Costa Rica, you know, bought land for conservation, and said, okay, we're going to build an eco lodge. We're just going to get into tourism. They had no idea about building. They didn't speak Spanish. They never worked in the hotel business. They also built a school because they said tourism can't be done without education, which we're, totally in agreement. And then they opened it, and they did quite well. So for about 4 or 5 years, they ran this eco lodge. But then they came to a point where, like, well, this is becoming a business. This was our dream, and now it's becoming a business. We're 24/7. Hotel business is tough. You start at 5 in the morning, you finish at 11 at night, and you don't never really finish, and at Christmas and holidays and everything. So they organized something they called the Eco Lodge Owner Dilemma Conference. They closed their lodge, invited experts from all over the world to figure out what's our exit strategy? How do we get out of this? So they were told two things. One thing you need is to make sure that the reserve you bought, the rainforest reserve, goes into an easement, so it can never be touched. Like it's a forever under conservation. And the other thing you need is professional management, right? But there isn't really a company, or there wasn't really a company that focuses on professional management for these small remote eco lodges or sustainable hotels. There's the big companies like the Hyatts and Marriotts and Four Seasons and Amans. They need a certain volume, right, to make it profitable. So we, through a professor here at a business school who hired us, and then he left again, and we took over. We started this company, and now offering these services to individual owners of small sustainable luxury hotels. And so we take care of everything for them. They're completely hands off. They don't have to worry about anything, but they still can be the owners and live their dream of having their lodges. So that's more or less how Cayuga started. From there, we started to grow, add more properties, more countries, and of course, the last year and a half was a bit of a hit. It was certainly a tough couple of years, and we can talk about that some more. But we feel that we're actually coming stronger out of this than ever, and we see the future very, very bright. And just for example, the last few months, we've done better than pre-pandemic 2019. All of our hotels have outperformed the 2019 numbers ever since May. So people are really coming back. It really seems like there's an appetite for the kind of experiences that we offer, the locations that we offer. So we see a good future ahead. And there's challenges, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that. But overall, I think we're in a good place.
That's so exciting to hear. Because I do feel like some of the different conversations that I've had around tourism, a lot of people have felt down and kind of worried, and how amazing to hear that people are demanding this kind of more
Mm-hmm,
sustainable eco option. I mean, that's
mm-hmm,
so fantastic to hear. And it's really interesting to hear about how the business model works as well. So you're basically managing the properties, and then there's owners of each one. And do the owners tend
correct.
to seek you out, or how does that, because I would think you would have to be, actually, you tell me, do you have to be an owner who is willing to balance profits with people, maybe a little heavier on the people side than a normal place? Or yeah, what's their mindset like when they're saying, okay, we want
Yeah.
to take this path?
I think when we choose properties, because we don't really go out and solicit properties, people find us because the owners of those properties really want to have management. If they want to do it on their own, they do it on their own, and so they come to us, and we say no to a lot of properties, not because the property is not amazing. It's because we don't feel the connection with the owners. We don't feel like we share the same values. So what you're saying, they need to be, on board about sustainability. They need to be on board about people. They need to be on board about ethics and values and all of that. But it doesn't have to be either or. People or profit. I think it can be both. The only thing that we have to be clear with everybody is it's going to take a little longer, right? We're not gonna just jerk something up artificially, because one of the policies, and we're talking now about the people, is that we don't work with expats. So when you go to luxury hotels around the world, you've probably been greeted by a general manager from Switzerland, or a chef from France, or a reservations manager from UK, or whatever, right? It's typical that there's these expats working. What we've done is we've decided that we work exclusively with local talent. So that is not easy, because obviously very few people here in Costa Rica had the opportunity to go abroad and study at a hotel school and get the education that, for example, I and my business partner got. But what we've seen is that once we invest in these people, I mean, it's amazing. So we talked about Tatiana, right? She
Mhm.
was receptionist at one of the hotels in Manuel Antonio at Arenas del Mar. And then her boyfriend, now husband, moved to Monteverde because he's from there. We opened a hotel there. We gave her an opportunity. She moved there and now is guest services manager, taking on responsibility and sustainability. And her career path is taking her on being hopefully general manager on one day of one of those hotels. Next step would be operations manager and then general manager. So that's the investment. That takes, I don't know, 15 years probably, to gather there. But that's the idea. We're just, it takes a little longer. Just like when we plant our gardens with a native species, it might take a little longer than just putting grass on, and mowing it and making it look pretty. But that's okay, So we understand that we're in this for the long run. We're in this to really have a positive impact on the communities in the long run, and not just do a quick fix, say it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that way of thinking about it because it's a really good way to just explain the difference, that it doesn't need to be choosing people over profit or profit over people, but that they can both be
No.
there. It's just a longer term thought. And I honestly feel like that would serve us well as humanity in every aspect of society, like thinking a bit more long term and thinking a bit more sustainable about what we do,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just I really like that. And we've started to you started to touch on a little bit of what you do differently in terms of hiring local people versus bringing in expats. Let's begin to dig into a little bit more about what you do differently in
Hmm.
your hotels. Um, so on the topic of the team and the policies within, I know you have a big focus on women. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that and what
Hmm.
you consciously do to help women with their careers within Cayuga
Hmm.
Collection.
Hmm. Yeah. So definitely the career paths are something really important to us. And I just mentioned the example of Tatiana. Alan is the new operations manager at Senda Monteverde. He's starting tomorrow. And before he was there, he was a gardener. He was a receptionist. He was a waiter. He was a reservations manager. He was a food and beverage manager. And now he's an operations manager. And all of this has taken him close to 10 years, right? But again, this is the path. So, Alan's a man. Another example is Rodbin, the operations manager at Arenas del Mar in Manuel Antonio. He actually was a construction worker when the hotel was built, almost 15 years ago, and worked his way up through driver, golf cart driver, bellman, receptionist, guest service manager, etc. And now he's operations manager. And on top of that, he started his company providing transport for the hotel, like for the airport transfers. So he's also become an entrepreneur, with the help of the hotel. So these are two men. Uh, the topic of women has always been important to us, but it really became very clear now in the pandemic. Because what happened, and I'll tell you a little bit what we've gone through in the pandemic. And yes, I'm positive, but certainly it's been rough. I got a lot of gray hair, and my anxiety was sky high at the moment. So it was rough, but no, we pushed hard and we got through. But when we got the news that the airport would close and we would have no more tourists coming in March 2020, we basically had to close all the hotels, and we had to let go of half of the staff. We had to let go half of the staff, and the other half was basically stayed on at a 50% salary reduction, because there was, it was zero income. And the people that we let go, there's a generous system here in Costa Rica and Panama and Nicaragua of severance pay. So we let them go, but they got a good package, and so at least they could go on. One of the things that we realized, I mean, we didn't do this on purpose, but we realized after, is like, unfortunately, and I feel bad about that in hindsight, but that's just the way it was. We let go of a lot of women of our teams. And why? Is because everybody that stayed on basically stayed on doing maintenance, security, and kind of just kind of keeping the hotel together. And so naturally we selected the people that could, do that more physical work. But when we realized that, and about 3-4 months after the closing, we started to reopen for the local market. Airport was still closed, but Costa Ricans, Panamanians started to travel. So we opened in June 2020, quite quickly afterwards. We soon realized, oops, now we have here, 80-90% men and 10-20% women. This does not feel right, and the service doesn't feel right, and there's, something went really wrong here. So we then, went out on a drive to basically try to exclusively hire women, at least for the positions where it makes sense, and we've been able to bring that balance back up to 60-40, 50-50 in some cases, so we're much more at the same level again. But it was an effort, because we also realized, all the stories that we heard in the communities, how affected the families, the communities got with the women losing their work. And this is why we decided, okay, now we're going to get real about this, and we're going to continue to focus on that. Next year, we're implementing a conscientization for all the organization, because we live in Latin America and there's still a lot of machismo happening here, so we really want to make sure that everybody in the organization understands gender, understands equality, understands what we need to do. And we're working with a foundation that was founded by Hillary Clinton, something Voices, I'm blanking now here, Vital Voices. Yeah,
I can find it.
Look
I can
that up.
find it
Yeah,
and link to it. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is something we want to get really serious about. And then, Brandy, I send you this article or this column that I wrote, for hospitality publication. And we can talk about that as well, because it talks about women, but it also talks about greenwashing, so lots of topics there. But I'll leave it at this, with answering that question, and I'll let you, take the conversation in the direction you want to take it.
Okay. Yeah. Let's loop back to that. Let's talk about food, because restaurants are always a part of, especially a higher end hotel experience, and the way
Yes,
that food is done in your restaurants, which I would assume, actually, you tell me if this is true. Are the chefs local as well,
of
or
course.
at least a
Yeah,
lot of the kitchen? Okay. And then how do you do food
totally.
differently? Okay.
Yeah. So the focus of our food is local, as local as possible. And to some people, luxury means bringing things from as far as possible, right? You go to a very expensive restaurant in New York City, and everything is flown. The oysters are flown in from Normandy, the lamb is brought in from New Zealand, and the salmon is flown in from I don't know where. And the further it comes, the more expensive, the more luxury. That's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying. The closer it comes, the fish, the chicken, the vegetables, the potatoes, the closer they come, the more luxury it is that we perceive, because it's fresh, it's healthier, and so the big focus is local. Now, as you said, we're luxury hotels. People pay. It's not cheap to stay at our hotel, so expectations are high. So we work with local products, with local talent. How do we make sure that we still satisfy the expectations of our guests? And what we do there is we have a system where we bring in culinary consultants. So we have chefs, still local chefs, that might have a restaurant in the capital city or somewhere else, and we bring them in and they help us develop the menu, train the staff, the local staff. So there's some kind of a training going on, and then we just it's I call it honest food, right? It's just not too fancy, but it is very nice. And I was just on a trip with 4 journalists in Isla Palenque in Panama last week, and the journalists were all like, wow, how do you do this on this island, here, and we're having this exquisite food. They did a tasting menu and they were just like blown away. It's like, who's the chef? And it's like, it's the Panamanian guy from, grew up an hour down take the ferry back and down the road, and that's where it's from. But he was taught by another Panamanian chef and is just able to really make it happen. And the local part is not only, of course, healthy and delicious, but it's also sustainability. So I think we're all in the process of learning about supply chains. We're all realizing that, things are not getting to us, possibly, and things might break down, and we're not getting everything that we're used to. So we haven't been affected by this, since we're not bringing things in from the outside. We haven't been affected by these supply chain problems, and I think that our food is so sustainable. It is sourced locally. And I think it's something that our guests appreciate. I always tell the story when I was visiting a resort for a conference in the Maldives, and it was an amazing resort. It's got a high sustainability credentials as well. And one night we were taken out with a boat to a sandbank in the Indian Ocean and had a little reception, and we had drinks, and they were serving some snacks, and one of them was fish, and I had a piece of fish. It's like, oh, it's very good. What is this? And it's like, well, this is salmon. I'm like, but I'm in the Indian Ocean, and again, I'm eating salmon, flown in from how many thousand kilometers away. I'm like, that just doesn't feel right. I wanted to have, if I was going to have something, I wanted to have something local. I wanted to have something that's from nearby. So that's a lot of our philosophy on food.
Mm. I love that, and I feel like I guess I have the same philosophy when I travel as well. The whole point of going to experience new cultures is to, dive in and really be a part of it. And so the food is such a huge piece of that. And, an
Mm-hmm.
interesting story about me. So I eat both gluten-free and vegetarian, vegan, but I tried vegan. And at the restaurant, they were able to come up with incredible meals because most of the time I kinda have to settle for either something that's, like, pre-made and really not good, or yeah, like the side vegetables or whatever, but
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
very, creative, and it wasn't that hard for them to go off the menu to make something for me
No, it
either,
isn't.
which I think says a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. And gluten-free is super easy for us in Central America because we don't grow wheat here. Wheat is not a grain that's grown here. So we going gluten-free is very easy here. That's almost check, right? And unless you order a hamburger, then there's a bun. But even that we can make gluten-free, and we can also make it vegan. Make it a vegan burger. So the gluten-free is easy. And then one of the things in terms of vegetarian and vegan, we have seen a lot of our guests requesting that. And so we've invested a lot in upping our menus and adding options, so that somebody that stays with us for 3, 4, 5 nights doesn't get bored, and can still have a great dining experience. So we've significantly reduced the amount of beef on our menus. We haven't gotten rid of it. I haven't had the, to
It's
totally
hard.
get rid of it. We're debating still. It's a tough one because some people really ask for it and get upset if it's not there. But we're again we got rid of it for our staff meals. We got rid of all beef, but we haven't been able to do it there. But we reduced it significantly, and yeah, so I think that your experience that you had at Senda and Monteverde is something that you would have at all the Cayuga Collection property, because that's what we're trying to do. Accommodate for allergies or preferences, and also want to make sure that you don't have to suffer, right? Because that's your preference. We still want you to have a great dining experience.
And it is amazing because it's not the norm by any means. I mean, and I
Mm.
think it's just you're reaffirming that I need to move to Costa Rica. I was like, my on my bucket list is moving to Costa Rica. I am just nudging my husband constantly. I'm like, "Ooh, another one to add to the list. Gluten-free, very easy."
Yeah.
Uh, one quick thing I want to tell you, I'm picking up a lot of feedback as you're talking, and I'm wondering if it could be the earbuds. Do you think if you just talked loud without the earbuds that it might
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Let me try.
let's try it and see. It's worth a try.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Is
try this and
that
see.
better? Is that
As
better?
of right now, as of right
Okay.
now. Yeah. Um okay, so let's talk about development a little bit because this is some so actually it is picking up more feedback. Sorry. I'm going to have you put the earbuds back in. Sorry. It's always an adventure when I'm taping
Yeah.
these. Okay. All right. I don't know if it has uh-oh, am I going to get your video back? Can you
I
tell
don't
if there's
know.
any
I
reason why your video is
can't
not
see.
showing?
No,
No.
I can't see myself right now. But
I can't see you either. Let's see. Okay. Hey guys. Okay, so I'm gonna entertain you for a minute while we wait for Hans to come back. Let me see if anybody has had any questions. Stream. Um, let's see. So Hans came back. Hans, I don't know if you can actually hear this or not, but it's showing that your device isn't connected. So here we go. Let's see.
here we
There.
go.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
I've got
back.
you back. All right. I, I knew I was playing with fire, but I was like, let's see, let's see if it works. So I don't know if it has anything to do with moving or anything. Like, yeah, maybe try. Like very still, it's like impossible. But anyway, okay, let's come back around to the question about building structures. It sounds like the model you were kind of sharing is structures may already exist, or are you also in the process of development? And if you're in the process of development, how do you think about uh, buildings and what that might displace in terms of
Hmm.
natural lands and animals?
Right. Yeah. So I think we got the whole variety. So in Senda Monteverde, where you stayed, that was one of the first hotels in Monteverde that was abandoned. I think it went bankrupt. The bank took it over. It was deserted for 10 years, and then the current owner bought it, and it was a remodel. So probably the most sustainable way of doing something is take something existing and repurpose it, right? So you don't build something new. So that's one model that obviously is very attractive, is to take something that exists and just bring it back to life. We have other projects. We have two properties, the one in Nicaragua and the one in Panama, that are actually on islands. So the one in Nicaragua, Jicaro Lodge, that's the only property that's still closed currently. We hope to open later this year, early next year. But it's an interesting story because it's a relatively small island. It's in the lake Nicaragua. It's called an isleta, and the buildings there were actually made and built in Managua, in the capital, disassembled and then brought onto the island, because we wanted to keep the impact of the building on the island to a minimum, right? So it's almost like a Lego, right? You build it and then you disassemble it and then you put it back together on the island. So there's 9 casitas on the island that we put together there. So that's another example. Another example would be the Isla Palenque in Panama, where we have a 400 acre island with 7 beaches covered with rainforest, and all that's on the island is 8 beachfront casitas and 1 6-bedroom house divided in bungalows. So the footprint is nothing. It really is totally minimal. So whenever we try to do projects, we also try to keep the footprint as little as possible. And then you have a place like Cura, that's in Uvita. It's an adults only resort. It's only 8 suites, very modern, contemporary look, very sexy, very couples only, again, very different experience. And when you look at it, you're like, can this be sustainable? Because it has this slick white, contemporary look. And I always say it's probably one of the most sustainable hotels because, first of all, local architect, local owners, local architect, all the furniture, everything was sourced locally. It's got a system where you can leave everything open and have cross ventilation. You don't have to put air conditioning if you don't want to. You can if you'd like to. It's got solar water heating. We produce some of our electricity. All local staff. The same thing as all the other Cayuga Collection properties. But really, showing that even this contemporary modern look can be sustainable. It doesn't have to be all straw huts, right? There's ways of doing this well. So, a big variety of experiences, a bigger variety of what we do. But in the end, it's just having that consciousness of trying to do the things the best way for whatever style or whatever you're going for.
What sounds cool about that to me, just from like your lifestyle piece of it and just everyone working with you, is it sounds like it would be really fun to be constantly pushing the boundaries of being creative and coming up with solutions that are different than, quick, quick and already not solved, because
Yeah.
solved isn't the right word, but already existing. It
Oh
sounds like
no,
a lot of
absolutely.
fun.
That's what we do every day. We're like, okay, so how do we do this? And I can give you two examples. It's been a while back, because we haven't really been using single-use plastics for about 12 years now, or 12, 13 years now at our hotels. So before it became popular to say, I'm going off single-use plastics, and then the pandemic came and everybody's packing everything in plastic again. So we're also able to not do that. But going back to, so we decided that we 10, 12, 13 years ago, didn't want to have anything to do with plastic water bottles and didn't want anything to do with plastic straws. So the plastic straw story is that a gardener at one of the hotels said, hey, I have this bamboo in my backyard, I'm going to cut it, and dry it and see if that works as a straw, so hence we have bamboo straws, which you probably used in Monteverde at the hotel. And when we went to Panama, they're like, no, we're not bringing bamboo straws from Costa Rica. That makes no sense. We're going to use the stems of the papaya tree because they're hollow as well. And we're going to use them as straws. So there's, as you say, creative problem solving happens all the time. And then we were struggling with a plastic water, not in the restaurant so much, but in the transfers. Like when we pick you up at the airport in the transfer and bring you to the hotel, what do we do? Or when we go on a tour, right? We go on a tour hiking in the rainforest or in the beach for 2-3 hours. We need to take water. So we were testing how people feel about using these, clean canteen kind of, stainless steel bottles, but used, right? Somebody else has used them before. Now you use them. Of course, they were washed, and just like we wash, glasses, after use, the same thing. And again, we're luxury. but at the same time, you know, luxury for a lot of people means Fiji water brought in from the other side of the world, you know, sealed, you know, with a, so you, nobody had it before. So we started offering our guests these water bottles, stainless steel water bottles, and it worked. You know, nobody had made a fuss about it. Nobody like, it's like, okay, that's fine. And maybe one or two were not so happy about it, but maybe it also kind of helped them understand, I don't need to buy a plastic water bottle every time I'm thirsty. You know, I can bring my own bottle, I can reuse it, I can wash it. And so there's definitely there's definitely a lot of that going on. And oh, believe me, during the pandemic, I mean, creative problem solving, you know, big time. Yeah, we actually went to the point where at some point during the pandemic, like it was I think mid to end 2020, we did an innovation contest with our staff. You know, because like, you know how it is. You know, when you're in the crisis, you know, you get creative. You get really creative. You know, now what can we do? What can we come up with? So we asked our staff, you know, for small cash prizes, which were obviously very, you know, came in very handy at that point in time for our staff to come up with ideas. And some amazing ideas. Remember the pond at Senda Monteverde? You know, when you
Yes.
walk to the rooms,
Yeah.
you know, so the chefs had the idea to put tilapias, to put fish in there, right? You know, and so we have our own, you know, fish tank, like this, you know, pond. So that was one of the projects that's like, we don't have to buy it, you know, we can just have our own here. Or, you know, rainwater catchment for the laundry was another one. And then a lot of it had to do with cultural tours. You know, Tatiana and Guillermo at Senda are offering a cultural tour into Monteverde, the story of the Quakers that came, or in Arenas del Mar, more about the banana company that used to be there and in the 50s left and what was left behind. And so a lot of really cool things came out of this innovation contest. But yes, we, you know, no day is like another. And that's, like you say, it's fun. It makes it interesting. It always keeps us on our toes, and there's always new challenges.
You know, I think that's a really good, just kind of blurb to keep in mind, even just as consumers who are trying to be more conscious, because there is a burnout factor and there's an exhaustion sometimes if the mindset is, gosh, I'm just like making everything harder in my life. You know, like every decision is harder, everything requires more research. But I think if just that little
Mm-hmm.
flip of, yeah, but it keeps us alive, keeps us thinking, keeps us creative. And it actually is fun to, I
Mm-hmm.
think it feels amazing when you find a solution, right? When it's
Yeah,
like, it doesn't seem
yeah.
like you're going to solve the problem, then you find it and it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched on this a teensy bit, and I just want to dive into it a little more around the furniture and room decor, because I thought this is something pretty cool that you do differently, which is using local artisans and then you repair your own furniture, right? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, it's not only repair, you know, in some cases also make it. So give you two examples. Isla Palenque in Panama, trees fall on the island because of storms, because, you know, in the rainforest there's a constant change going on. You know, a tree falls and becomes then the ground where new vegetation comes out. So we take some of those trees out of the forest and we actually we made all the furniture in Isla Palenque from that. We have our own wood shop. So yes, you know, that's again, you're on an island, you don't want to bring things in, you know, so if we can just use what's already on the island, it makes a lot more sense. And the other hotel, which is really quite amazing, is called Aguas Claras. It's a property that's on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, in Puerto Viejo. The Caribbean coast of Costa Rica is not quite as known. It's like a, you know, kind of one of Costa Rica's best kept secrets. And there's a hotel there called Aguas Claras. It's got only 13 rooms. It's a project of mother and daughter. They're both artists. And basically, you know, every chair, every mirror, everything in that hotel has a story, has something. And a lot of things are, you know, reused, recycled items, furniture. And a lot of it is just art done by their friends, right? You know, so you got this lamp here that my friend down the road made, and this painting here is from there, and this mirror with these, you know, elaborate things I made myself. And so there's a story in everything. And again, you know, this is just particularly that hotel because that's the owners are artists, you know. And then another hotel, as I said, you know, the owners are one of the owners is architect, and so the lines and the details and everything has to be. So this is where again where I started in the beginning, said we're a collection, we're not a chain. Every hotel has such a strong personality because of its owners, and they just hand us that and say, okay, you take care of the management, you take care of the day to day, you know help me be innovative with sustainability, and you make sure that the guests are having a great experience.
Mm. You know, that's so cool. I was thinking about how just it's like one of the things of being kind of this boutique hotel collection, like taking the path of it's not thinking smaller, but almost thinking smaller, like taking the path of I don't know a better word than like small, local, like make this its own perfect, unique identity versus how do we grow and expand as fast as we can so that we can continue to bring in more
Yeah,
revenue
yeah.
and cover our
I
costs
mean,
kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, being profitable is important. You know, I mean, we're not an NGO. we don't get
Right.
we don't get checks written to us. You know, we have to fight hard to be sustainable, right? Financially sustainable as well. But I do think that we're in a niche where we're trying to show that it can be sustainable because you know, people always ask me, so, you know, what you do is really cool, you know, this management of these small sustainable luxury hotels. Who else does that? You know, nobody. You know, I honestly don't know of anybody in the world that does what we do, you know. Because there's companies that own several lodges, several hotels, and manage them, but not individually owned luxury sustainable hotels that are they're managed by a company. And then it's like, why does nobody else do that? You know, so here's two reasons. One, it's really hard. You know, it's definitely not easy. It's fun and it's very satisfying. You know, no doubt about that. It's hard. And two, there's no big money in this. You know, and
Mhm.
when I look back at my fellow Cornell graduates, you know what they get in Wall Street and in corporate positions and all of that, they're probably making a whole lot more money, but I'm not sure if they're really happy doing what they're doing. You know, so you know, there's you know, follow your passion, follow the money. You know, you got to make a decision at some point in time. And if you know, and I'm not complaining. We're doing well. You know, our hotel owners are very satisfied, even making it through this pandemic. You know, I live a very comfortable life. I have everything that I could you know wish for. Um, but yeah, it's definitely the balance. We're going back to the balance between profitability and people, environment, you know, growth, keeping it unique, keeping it special. It's definitely something that we discuss a lot, you know, for sure.
I mean, yeah, I would imagine it's a part of like nearly every single discussion every single day. I don't know how it couldn't be, because to your point, you do have to stay profitable and to pay people and to keep them in jobs. And I mean, I would feel like there's a lot of pressure to that, and especially over the past year and a half. Maybe you
Mhm.
can talk a bit about just yeah, just the experience, I guess, for the past year and a half, and, um, I guess why you're still pretty optimistic. Why you think, that with the types of hotels that you guys have, you're able to still be pretty optimistic and not
Mhm.
feeling like this is the end of the world?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. I mean, I was thinking this could be no, not the end of the world, but the end of our business, right? You know, when I went to all the hotels and I had a meeting with the staff and I told them, you know, it's like I told them this is not a nuclear war. This is not the end of the world. It's going to be tough, but we're going to come out of this and we're going to come out of this stronger. And we did. And one of the things that we did was work with the local market. And I never thought that in Costa Rica and Panama we would have so much acceptance by the local market. You know, I didn't think there was that much. But since the borders were closed, the locals here couldn't go anywhere else. So they started to explore their own country. And we did extremely well. So that was like the first step up, right? And then the airports opened again. You know, some people started to travel again, and we're able. We just decided to be ready really early, you know, and to make sure that we're there. You know, that our staff is there, well prepared, well trained. That our hotels look like new. That we didn't let them go. You know, everybody worked hard in maintaining them, and I think since we were there early, people had great experiences, and then word of mouth started. And and so something happened here with this.
I
Uh-oh.
can still see you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Wait.
there you are.
Yeah. Oh, this is this. Oh my God. Now what? Okay. Wait. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, perfect.
So sorry about that. Yeah, so then, you know, the first internationals came back. They had a great experience, and then there was again a bit of a dip in January, February of this year. It didn't quite happen, but then vaccination got underway. You know, people got more confident, and then, as I said, starting like late April, May, you know, all of a sudden we outperformed our previous, you know, our 2019 low season. You know, we had an amazing low season. You know, people just really came back, had a great experience. The Delta variant, you know, again, it wasn't a bump in the road, you know, so August and September were a little bit lower than we thought, but now we're just seeing things really taking off, and I think that that for the next few months, the winter months, people want to go out, they want to travel, they want to have you know, experiences with friends, with family, exploring new cultures, exploring new ecosystems. And so yes, I am very positive about what is to come. There will be new challenges, there will be other things, but that's will always be there. And I think the important thing is that we're just ready. You know, I always told my staff, just be ready. You know, don't put your head in the sand and pity yourself. Just get ready. You know, whoever comes, thank that, you know, guests that made that effort, because traveling still is challenging, you know, with flights and tests and, you know, filling out forms and everything. But the ones that do it really, I mean, we should just give them all a big hug and say thank you for coming, and we really appreciate that you've gone through this, and you're with us. And yeah.
Yeah, and I love just kind of taking the focus down to, okay, like what is in our power today, and kind of making it through the pandemic like one day at a time, of let's focus on like what we can do, what we can be ready for, the people who are here, and you know, just kind of let it show its way out. And it sounds like that worked like really, really well, which is very
Yeah.
exciting because so many places did not make it through. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's very exciting. So for consumers, let's wrap up talking about just advice you have for us, those of us who are looking at traveling, love traveling, want to book
Hmm.
places to stay. What's So I have this is a two-part question. First part is, what is kind of a headliner that you would share of why we as consumers do need to be conscious about our travel choices? And then
Hmm.
any advice you have about how to be conscious about our choices.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, often use the comparison to fire. You know, fire can be something very useful, but it can be very destructive. You know, and I think it's the same thing with tourism. You know, if you do tourism carefully, you know, it can have a huge positive impact on conservation, on people, and on you as the person traveling, right? You know, so there's really amazing benefits. But if it gets out of hand, if it becomes massive, if it becomes of an exploiting nature, you know, then it can really destroy communities. It can destroy nature. It can destroy, yeah, it can be very harmful. So I wrote a blog. You can find it on cayugacollection.com, my blogs, about what should we do to come to do tourism better after this, right? So there's a few bullets that I mention, and I think one of the important things is we need to try to figure out how not everybody to travel at the same time. Like that. Everybody needs to go from the 22nd of December to the 3rd of January. And that puts a huge stress on certain locations, right? We need to figure out how to take that stress off and spread it out more evenly. The other thing that we have to do is we need to make sure that when we travel, we just don't go to one place and leave all the money in one single place. For example, in an all-inclusive resort, that is packaged with a flight, with the tours, with cruise ships is another example. It's like everything is concentrated in one place. So one of the things that I think Costa Rica has done very well in the past years is it's created I call it a very democratic kind of model of tourism. That you come to Costa Rica, you might rent a car, you might take some local transport, local flight, whatever. You go from one place in the cloud forest to another place on the beach, to another place on the other coast, to spend the night in San Jose. So you're going to several places, and as you go there, you stop on the road in a restaurant, you buy something in the supermarket, you hire a local guide to take you on a hike to the waterfall. So that tourism dollar really gets spread in the community, and I think when you're able to do that, that's a huge step forward. And then when you go look for places where to stay, just ask questions. Green labels, green certifications are kind of hard to decipher. It's very confusing. But when you think about going to a place and you care about sustainability, you want to make sure that you're in a place of people that care. Ask in the reservation process. Just ask them. What do you do to be sustainable? What does sustainability mean to you? And if you don't get if you get an answer of, yeah, well, we hang up our towels and we recycle, then you're like, okay, check. That's, yeah, well, not really, right? What? Tell me something for real. Tell me something that really makes a difference. And if you're getting a good answer there, then you're probably on the right track. And I always say, and the best thing when you're at the hotel and you're talking to the guests, to the staff at the hotel, have those conversations and ask them, what does sustainability mean to you? How is the community like here? How did this place look 20 years ago before tourism? Is it improved? Has it gotten worse? What's going on? And have those conversations. And then when you learn about that, then share that. Say, this is a good place. This is not such a good place. I would reconsider that one. But communicate. I guess my biggest recommendation is just to communicate.
I think that is, you just shared so much good stuff there that I feel like is so tactical that we can all use it and try it. And I love the idea of asking, what was this like 20 years ago and how is it now? Because that's such a easy way to get people talking, and you just learn so much through the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then to your
Mm-hmm.
point of telling our friends and telling everyone we can, what we find and what we learn. And, that's been one of the hardest things for me. And part of why I was so looking forward to our conversation is that when I'm making travel plans with my family, I'm like what do you call it? The squeaky, like squeaky something. I can't think, like I'm the link in the chain that breaks the whole thing. And it's a very uncomfortable place for me to be, and it's hard on everybody because I'm the one saying, I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with that, but I don't know what the answer is about what's better, and I can't really explain to you why I don't feel comfortable. And it's been it's hard, and I feel like I've learned so much today that I can share in conversations with my family and my friends about what I'm looking for when I'm
Hmm.
saying that I don't feel comfortable, but I don't know what the solution is. So, yeah, I think that it's so helpful. It's so helpful. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to contact you? And if they're interested in the resorts, the best way to
Yeah.
go look and maybe book,
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah, thanks. I think the first stop is our website, cayugacollection.com. There's then a little bit more of the history, our philosophy, links to all the different hotels that you can then explore. You can, contact me through the website somehow with a chat, talk to somebody, they'll get back to you. My email is Hans at Cayuga Online. So it's not Cayuga Collection, it's Cayuga Online. Hans at cayugaonline.com. Happy to receive email from you directly. And yeah, any other questions, any other thoughts, or if you want to, try it out yourself and then tell us if it is all for real or if I was just making this up, uh, we're really proud of walking the talk, but we can always improve. We can always get better. There's always things. Sustainability is never done. It's a process, and there's always things that we can do better. And Brandy, one more thing, because obviously this is about animals. You asked me in the before the show, like what can you do for animals? So one, I was thinking about that because uh, we have a really, really strict policy of not feeding wild animals at our properties, to the point that we would we have fired employees that have fed animals, because sometimes, employees feed animals because then the animals can come and they show them to the tourists, and that means tips, right? But this is not a sustainable practice at all. And we have had very strong conversations with guests, with paying guests, about not feeding animals and telling them that that's not acceptable. So that's something I think really important when you go to these remote places, is to be really careful, as cute as the animal is, not to feed them. And then the second thing is animal selfies. This is something that we feel really strong about right now. We actually have a campaign here in Costa Rica, and we're sponsoring at one of the hotels. you know, as cute as those sloths are, they don't want to take selfies with you. They really don't. So, we have pet sloths at the gift shop, and you can take the selfie with them. But please, there's a certain level of respect with the wild animals, that really there needs to be um, a distance, and there needs they're not domesticated animals, they're not petting animals, so that's something. As we are located in very remote wild locations with lots of wild animals around us, it's really important to respect that.
Mhm. I'm so glad that you said that because it reminded me of a couple of things. Number one, I actually wrote a blog post about our experience at Cinta Verde that I forgot about. So I'll link to that. So for everybody who wants to actually see
Okay.
some pictures and things, because one of the biggest things as well that I loved was the philosophy around the animals. And as a tourist, you go to Costa Rica and you have in your mind, oh, I want to see a sloth. I want to see a jaguar. I want to see all of these different wild
Frogs.
animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, coati, like just all these animals that you don't normally get to see. And I loved that the philosophy was, well, if you're lucky, you will see them out there in the wild, but they are individuals themselves and they live their
Yeah.
own lives, and we don't force them to be available
Yeah.
for everybody to pet and hold. And I
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
stop animal selfies movement. I think that that's amazing and huge, and I hope it ripples through the whole world from Costa Rica. I think, yeah, I'm just really glad that you said all of that and shared all of that, because that's something that we can do as consumers no matter where we travel, is
Hmm.
don't feed them, don't engage, because you do see
Hmm.
the negative impact that that has on wildlife for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. Um, I also want to tell people, as a great next step, is to go check out Hans's blog, because his blog is really wealthy with information. There is so much on there, and I love your perspective, and our listeners are going to love your perspective too, because we kind of all operate on the same wavelength. So please go check out the blog. You all can find that if you go to cayugacollection.com is the website. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, in the left part of the footer, you can get to the blog. So that's a great follow-up for everybody as well if you want to dig into these concepts in this conversation more. And as always, everything will be in the show notes with links to all of it. That'll be at foranimalsforearth.com/podcast/60. And that's it. So thanks to everybody who is listening. Thanks for hanging out and talking with us. And Hans, thank you so much for coming on and lending your time and your expertise and helping us all learn about these things that are just so incredibly important. And I truly believe along with you that it's our way forward. So
thank you, Brandy. Thanks for coming to Monteverde and discovering the Cayuga Collection, and inviting me, and hopefully you'll be able to come back and explore some of the other properties.
I hope so. That's the dream. That's the dream.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.